Now it came to pass that after Israel was taken captive and Jerusalem became desolate, Jeremiah sat weeping, and he lamented the song of grief over Jerusalem and said, How does the city now sit alone? She who was full of people? She has become like a widow. She who was multiplied among the nations. She who was ruling among the countries. She has become subject to tribute. She weeps bitterly in the night. She sheds tears on her cheeks. Yet among all her lovers there is no one who comforts her. All who love her have dealt treacherously with her. Notes from the previous page. 1:1 The city is Jerusalem, once full of people but now in captivity in Babylon. They have become her enemies. Judea has gone into captivity. Because of her humiliation and harsh servitude. She dwells among the Gentiles. She finds no rest. All who pursue her overtake her in the midst of her distress. The roads of Zion mourn. Because no one comes to the feast. All her gates are destroyed. Her priests groan. Her virgins are led away. And she is embittered in herself. Her oppressors have become the master. And her enemies prosper. For the Lord humbled her. Because of the greatness of her ungodliness. Her infants have gone into captivity in the presence of the oppressor. From the daughter of Zion. All her beauty has departed. Her princes have become like rams. That find no pasture. And they journey in weakness. Before the face of the pursuer. Jerusalem remembers her days of humiliation and rejection. She remembers all her objects of desire. What she had in days of old. When her people fell into the hand of the oppressor. When there was no one to help her. When her enemies saw this, they laughed at her deportation. Jerusalem sinned grievously. Therefore, she became a storm-tossed sea. All who glorified her have humiliated her. For they saw her shameful acts. And indeed, she groans and turns away. Her uncleanness is at her feet. She did not remember her last things. And she lowered her boasting tone. There is no one who comforts her. O Lord, behold my humiliation. For the enemy has been exalted. The oppressor has spread his hand. Over all the objects of her desire. For she sees the Gentiles entering her sanctuary. Those whom you commanded not to enter your church. All her people groan. And seek for bread. They gave the objects of their desire for food. To stay alive. O Lord, behold, and have regard for me. For I am treated shamefully. All you who pass by, do not turn away. And see if there is any pain like my pain. Which has happened to me. The Lord who spoke by me. Humiliated me in the day of his fierce anger. From his lofty place he sent fire. And brought it into my bones. He spread a net for my feet. And turned me back. He caused me to perish. And to be in great pain all the day. He kept watch on my profane acts. They are entangled together with my hands. They come up about my neck. My strength weakens. For the Lord has caused my hands to be in pain. I shall be unable to stand. The Lord drove off all my mighty ones from my midst. He summoned an appointed time against me. To crush my chosen men. The Lord trod a winepress for the virgin daughter of Judah. And for these I weep. My eyes pour down tears. For he who comforts me. And restores my soul. Is gone far from me. My children have perished. Because the enemy has prevailed. Zion has spread out her hands. But there is no one who comforts her. The Lord commanded concerning Jacob. His oppressors are around him. And Jerusalem has become as an unclean woman in their midst. The Lord is righteous. For I provoked his mouth. Hear now, all peoples. And behold my pain. For my virgins and my young men have gone into captivity. I called my lovers. But they deceived me. My priests and my elders ended their life in the city. For they sought food for themselves. To rev for their lives. but they found none. Behold, O Lord, for I am afflicted. My stomach is troubled. And my heart is upset within me. For I have rebelled exceedingly. From without, the sword has deprived me of my children. As death has here at home. Hear now, because I groan. There is no one who comforts me. All my enemies heard of my calamities. And they rejoiced. Because you brought it about. You brought on the day. You set the appointed time. For they have become like me. So let all their evil come before your face. And do to them as they did to me. Concerning all my sins. My groaning is great. And my heart is grieved. How did the Lord darken the daughter of Zion in his wrath? He cast down the glory of Israel. From heaven to earth. And did not remember his footstool. In the day of his wrath. The Lord has swallowed up and not spared. All the beauty of Jacob. In his anger, he brought down the strongholds. Of the daughter of Judah. He brought them down to the ground. He desecrated her king and its princes. In fierce anger, he broke off every horn of Israel. And drew back his right hand. From the face of the enemy. He blazed against Jacob like a flaming fire. And it devoured everything all around. He bent his bow like an enemy. And strengthened his right hand like an adversary. He put to death all the objects of my desire. And poured out his anger like a fire. On the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. The Lord became like an enemy. And swallowed up Israel. He brought down all his palaces. Destroyed his strongholds. And multiplied shame and humiliation. In the daughter of Judah. Notes from the previous page. 1:5 During Lent we pray, O Lord and Master of our lives. Here, the oppressors have become the master. This captivity is the result of the ungodliness of God's people. A stark picture of life outside of fellowship with God. 1:7 Jerusalem Remembers tells us the author is looking back to the fall of the city and the grief of her people as they endured deportation to Babylon. 1:8 Jerusalem sinned grievously sums up the cause of God's discipline of his people. 1:11 Tragically, the phrase the objects of their desire for food is a reference, as in 2:4, to the eating of their own children to stay alive. We ask incredulously, how could they possibly do that? But remember, in our time, we do not eat them, we abort them. 1:18 I provoked his mouth is a reference to breaking the laws God spoke to Moses and thus to his people. From 1:18, 22, the I is the city of Jerusalem, and the warning for her disobedience was issued and recorded in Deuteronomy 28:15, 68. 2:2 He brought them down, the Greek word suggests a violent smashing. He opened and spread out his tabernacle like a vine. And destroyed his feast. The Lord forgot his festivals and the Sabbath. Which he appointed in Zion. And in the fury of his wrath. He provoked king, priest, and prince. The Lord rejected his altar. And abandoned his sanctuary. By the hand of the enemy. He broke in pieces all of her palaces. They uttered their voice in the house of the Lord. As on a feast day. The Lord turned to destroy the all of the daughter of Zion. He stretched out a measuring line. And has not turned back his hand from trampling her. Therefore the bulwark mourned. And the wall weakened with it. Her gates sank into the ground. And he destroyed and broke her bars. Her king and her princes are among the Gentiles. And the law is no more. And indeed, her prophets see no vision from the Lord. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit on the ground and keep silence. They throw dust on their heads. And gird themselves with sackcloth. They have brought down to the ground the leading virgins in Jerusalem. My eyes fail with tears. And my heart is troubled. My glory is poured out upon the ground. At the destruction of the daughter of my people. while the child and the nursing infants faint in streets of the city. They say to their mothers, "Where is the wheat and wine?" While they faint like the wounded in the streets of the city, while their lives are being poured out in their mother's bosom. What shall I testify to you? Or what shall I compare to you, O daughter of Jerusalem? Who will save and comfort you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For the cup of your destruction is great. Who shall heal you? Your prophets have seen foolishness and worthless things for you, but they did not reveal your wrongdoing, so as to turn back your captivity. Instead, they saw worthless burdens and banishment for you. All who pass by clap their hands at you, and they hiss and shake their head at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city they call the crown of glory, the joy of all the earth? All your enemies have opened their mouths against you. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, "We have swallowed her up." Besides, this is the day we have looked for. We have found it, we have seen it. The Lord has done what he purposed. He has carried out his words, which he commanded in days of old. He pulled down, and has not spared, and has caused the enemy to rejoice over you. He has exalted the horn of those who oppress you. Their heart cried out to the Lord. O all of Zion, pour down tears like torrents, day and night. Give ye yourself no relief. May your eyes have no rest, O daughter. Arise, rejoice in the night. At the beginning of your watch, pour out your heart like water before the face of the Lord, and lift your hands up to him. For the life of your infants, who grow weak in hunger, on the corner of every street. Behold, O Lord, and look, for whom you have gathered thus. Shall the women eat the fruit of their womb? The cook has made a gleaning. Shall the infants who nurse the breasts be put to death? Will you kill priest and prophet in the sanctuary of the Lord? The child and the old Eman sleep in the street. My virgins and my young men have gone into captivity. You killed them with sword and famine. In the day of your wrath, you massacred and have not spared. He called my sojourner round about me to a feast day. There was no one who escaped, or left. In the day of the Lord's wrath, as I strengthened and multiplied all my enemies, I am the man who sees poverty by the rod of his anger upon me. He took me and led me away into darkness, and not into light. Surely he has turned his hand against me. Throughout the day, he has aged my flesh and my skin, and has broken my bones. He has besieged me, and surrounded my head. He has worn me down with hardships. He set me in dark places, as those long dead. He hedged me in, and I cannot come forth. He made my brazen chain heavy. Though I will call and cry out, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my ways, and obstructed my paths. He has troubled me. He is a bear lying in wait for me, like a lion in a hidden place. After I departed, he eagerly pursued and caught me. He has utterly ruined me. He bent his bow, and set me up as a target for the arrow. He caused the arrows of his quiver to pierce my loins. I became a laughing stock to all my people, and their song all the day. He has filled me with bitterness, and drenched me with gall. He also broke my teeth with gravel, and fed me with ashes. He took away peace from my soul, and I have forgotten the good things. Therefore I said, my victory and my hope have perished from the Lord. I remembered by reason of my poverty, and because of my persecution, I remembered my bitterness and gall. My soul shall remember, and meditate within me. I will fix this in my heart. Therefore, I will endure. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who will seek him, the good one. he will wait for and quietly expect the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man when he takes up a yoke in his youth. Notes from the previous page. 2:5 The Lord became like an enemy is a warning of the gravity of the dread judgment seat of Christ. 2:9 When God's people turn on him, her prophets see no vision from the Lord. Bluntly, heaven shuts its mouth, see Proverbs 29:18. 2:12 This verse is likely another reference to cannibalism, see 1:11, 2:20, 4:10. 2:15 See Jeremiah 33:16 and Baruch 5:4. 2:22 In God's judgment, no one will escape. 3:2-17 These verses either start with or contain the word he, a direct reference to God. There is no doubt in the writer's mind, judgment comes from God, and he is not passive. He will sit alone and be silent. Because he bears it on himself. He will give his cheek to the one who strikes him. And he will be filled with insults. Yet the Lord shall not reject him forever. For he who humbles will have compassion, according to the abundance of his mercy. For he does not afflict willingly, though he humbles the children of men, to humble all the prisoners of the earth under his feet, to turn aside the judgment of Ammon before the face of the Most High, and to condemn a man before he is judged. The Lord does not command, who thus speaks, and it comes to pass. The Lord has not commanded it, for evil and good shall not proceed from the mouth of the Most High. Why should a living Ammon complain? Ammon concerning his sin? RWI has been searched out and examined. Therefore we shall turn to the Lord. Let us lift our hearts and our hands to the Most High in heaven. We have sinned and acted in an ungodly way. Thus you have not shown us mercy, but you visited us in anger, and drove us away. You have put us to death, and not spared us. You veiled yourself with a cloud, because of our prayer, to close my eyes and to reject me. You have placed us in the midst of the peoples. All our enemies have opened their mouth against us. Fear and anger have come upon us. Yes, devastation and destruction. My eyes will shed tears for forgiveness, because of the destruction of the daughter of my people. My eyes are drowned with tears, and I will not keep silent. So there shall be no rest, until the Lord bends down and sees from heaven. My eyes will bring suffering in my soul, because of all the daughters of the city. My enemies hunted me down without cause, like a sparrow. They put my life to death in the pit, and threw a stone at me. Water flowed over my head. I said, I am rejected. I called on your name, O Lord, from the lowest pit. You heard my voice. Do not hide your ears from my supplication. You drew near at my call on the day I called upon you. You said to me, do not fear. O Lord, you pleaded the case for my soul. You redeemed my life. O Lord, you saw my troubles. You judged my cause. You saw all their vengeance, in all their reasoning against me. You heard their taunts, and all their plots against me, and the lips of those who rose up against me, and their meditations against me all the day. Look at their eyes, as they sit down and rise up. You shall render a recompense to them, O Lord, according to the works of their hands. You shall repay them as a covering your hardship for them. You shall pursue them in your wrath and utterly destroy them from under heaven, O Lord. How will gold lose its brightness, and fine silver become tarnished? The stones of the sanctuary are scattered at the head of every street. The honored sons of Zion, valuable as gold, how are they now regarded as clay pots, the works of a potter's hands? Even the serpents uncover their breasts to nurse their young. But the daughters of my people are cruel, like an ostrich in the desert. The tongue of the nursing child cleaves to the roof of its mouth for thirst. The young children beg for bread, but no one breaks it for them. Those who ate delicacies perish in the streets. Those brought up on the best food are clothed with dung. The lawlessness of the daughter of my people is greater than the lawlessness of Sodom, which was overthrown in a moment, and there was no one to help her. Her Nazi rights were purer than snow. They shone more brightly than milk. They were purified as with fire. Their polishing was superior to sapphire stones. Now their appearance is blacker than soot. They go unrecognized in the streets. Their skin clings to their bones. It is withered and has become as dry as wood. Those slain by the sword are better off than those who die of hunger, deprived of the fruits of the field. The hands of compassionate women cooked their children. They became food for them. In the destruction of the daughter of my people, the Lord has fulfilled his anger. He has poured out his fierce wrath. He has kindled a fire in Zion, and it devoured her foundations. The kings of the earth, and all inhabitants in the world, would not believe that the enemy and oppressor could enter through the gates of Jerusalem. For the sins of her prophets, and the lawlessness of her priests, who shed righteous blood in her midst. Her watchmen wandered in the streets. They were defiled with blood in their weakness, and stained their garments with it. Depart from the unclean. Call to them, depart. Depart. Do not touch us. For they are set on fire and indeed wander. Say among the Gentiles, let them not live here. Notes from the previous page. 3:22-62. Here we see an abrupt change in tone which acknowledges the goodness, v. 22, and mercy, v. 28, of God. The message, no matter the gravity of our sins, or what our enemies have planned for the demise of our souls, our hope is always in the love and mercy of God. 4:1 Chapter 4 returns to the distress of Jerusalem. The gold has lost its brightness. 4:3 A powerful contrast, even the serpents, symbolic of the devil and his hosts, nurse their young, but captive Israel is cruel. 4:6 Here, Israel is worse than Sodom. 4:7-8 Not only did the people apostatize, the Nazirites became blacker than soot. The Nazirites, Numbers 6:2, 19, 20, were the monks of Israel who never cut their hair, refused wine, and devoted themselves entirely to God. By this we see that Israel was utterly desolate. 4:13-14 The theme of desolation continues. The prophets, the priests, and the watchmen have all forsaken God. Their portion shall not continue to enjoy the Lord's presence when he looked upon them with favor. For they did not respect the person of the priests, nor did they show mercy to the elders. While we yet lived, our eyes failed us. As we looked in vain for help, we kept watching intently for a nation that could not save us. We hunted for our little ones, so they would not walk in our streets. Our appointed time is near. Our days are fulfilled. Our time is come. Our pursuers were swifter than the eagles of the sky. They perched on the mountains, and lay in wait for us in the desert. The breath of our nostrils, the anointed of the Lord, was seized in their corruption. Of whom we said, under his shadow we shall live among the nations. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, who dwell in the land. For indeed the cup of the Lord shall pass through to you, and you shall become drunk and be poured out. O daughter of Zion, your lawlessness has come to an end. He will not continue your exile. He has been concerned about your lawlessness. O daughter of Edom, he has revealed your profane acts. O Lord, remember what happened to us. Look upon us with favor, and see our disgrace. Our inheritance has been turned over to foreigners, and our homes to strangers. We have become orphans and have no father. Our mothers are as widows. We pay for the water we drink, and our wood comes at a price. We are pursued at our heels. We have labored. We have no rest. Egypt gave us a hand, Assyria to their satisfaction. Our fathers sinned and are no more. We suffered from their lawless actions. Servants rule over us. There is no one to redeem us from their hand. We will bring in our bread, at the risk of our lives, from the presence of the sword in the desert. Our skin has become blackened as an oven. They are shriveled up from the stormy wind of famine. They humbled the women in Zion, the virgins in the cities of Judah. Princes were hung up by their hands, and elders were not honored. The chosen men took up weeping, and the young men weakened under the loads of wood. Elders also ceased to gather at the gate. The chosen men ceased to sing their psalms. The joy of our heart has ceased. Our dance has turned into mourning. The crow and fell from our head. Woe to us, because we sinned. Because of this, our heart has become painful. Because of this, our eyes have remained in darkness. On Mount Zion, because it is desolate, foxes pass through it. But you, O Lord, shall dwell forever. Your throne from generation to generation. Why will you utterly forget us? Will you forsake us for so long a time? Turn us back to you, O Lord, and we shall be converted. Renew our days as before. For you have indeed rejected us, and are exceedingly angry with us. Notes from this page. 4:16 A barometer of indifference toward God, in both Israel and the Church, is lack of respect for the priests and disdain for the elders. 4:20 The Greek word for anointed is Christos. Christ is symbolized as a victim of the destruction of God's people brought on by their disobedience. 4:21-22 For the punishment of Edom, see Jeremiah 30:1, 16. 5:1 What happened to Israel can happen to Christians who disgrace themselves in the sight of God. 5:2 The foreigners are not just the Babylonians, but could also be a reference to idols. Jeremiah 5:19. 5:5 In the Old Covenant and in the New, when we depart from God's will we have no rest. 5:19-22 This prayer offers a glimmer of hope to close the book of Lamentations. The phrases "turn us back to you and we shall be converted" tell us this is not merely the request of an individual, but that of a nation.